That just
sees Peter Pettigrew on the map. Sacre bleu! I must stop this mad rat. Why? Why though? Why do a voice like that for Lupin?
Hey everybody, and welcome to BIBLIOBIBULI, and today we are doing another comment response video because you guys just keep saying such great stuff. This was a response comment about whether or not Harry would have been able to see the Thestrals when he first arrived at Hogwarts, since he saw his parents die when he was a baby. So, Jessica Carter replied saying, "Hey, I actually read up on that. JK herself answered why he couldn't see the Thestrals, and here is why." Paraphrased. So basically she says that he did not really see his parents die. All he saw was a flash of green light. As for book 1, when Quirrell dies, Harry fainted before he died. In the 4th book, however, he sees Cedric die, which in my opinion makes no sense because he had his eyes covered if you look back to the Goblet of Fire book, but anyway. And does not see the Thestrals at the end of book 4. JK also addressed this, saying that she did not want to add more mystery at the end of the book. So yeah, that's it. Also, it may have something to do with him being there when Cedric died, hearing him die, then seeing the body. Katie also makes a fair point of it having to be when he accepted the deaths. He did not truly accept that his dad was dead in the 3rd book, when he thought he'd seen him cast a Patronus to save himself, Sirius and Hermione, and he did not fully believe Dumbledore when he told him Quirrell was dead. With Cedric, he had no doubt in his mind that he'd died because he was there and knew it had happened. Most of this is my personal opinion, so forgive me if I am wrong. This is one of the bigger plot holes that are to be solved. LOL. Hope that explains some stuff.
I think that explains a lot of stuff. It's very interesting when this is a discussion that we basically had over a year ago.
Yeah.
And getting that cleared up is awesome.
The Thestral mystery continues to confound people and have them questioning. I do agree that part of the reason, like J.K. Rowling saying, well, I didn't want to just drop something in at the very end of the book. That makes total sense.
Yeah. I mean, he could have done some mystery thing where, maybe he's just not paying attention at the end. He thinks he sees something in front of the carriage.
Right.
But no, I get it. Like, why would you? And I think it does make sense that he didn't accept it yet. He was too in shock. To have registered in his brain.
Yeah.
Or to become a conscious thing for him.
Yeah, to have accepted the death of Cedric. Absolutely. So in Katie's original comment, I believe that's 100% part of the component of why he doesn't see the Thestrals until later. And Jessica Carter makes a good point. He did not see his parents die. He just saw the flash of light.
Yeah.
And again, he did not see Quirrell die. He didn't witness that death.
No, he didn't.
I think you have to be physically present when someone dies and accept that death, and then you can see the Thestrals.
I think people who maybe use the Quirrell argument are going off of the movies, because I'm pretty sure he sees him die in the movies.
Well, he touches his face and stuff, yeah.
And then Voldemort flies out and Quirrell collapses. So in the movies, he does see that before he faints.
Fair enough.
But in the books, he doesn't.
That's fair. The movie could be part of why there's a little murkiness on that particular death.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I really have nothing against this comment. I think I can't argue against it in any way. I think.
Well, I love that.
Basically everything.
I love that she went through and brought up what Rowling herself said about the Thestrals.
Yeah.
And why they're not in book 4, but they're in book 5. So, very solid, awesome comment. Great research, too. Fantastic.
That's a checkmate move. Like, what are you going to do? Argue with the person who wrote the book and made the story?
Right.
This is why. Like, that. Okay. No, actually, my fan fiction is correct. No. Okay. Next comment comes from TPSU129. Now, if Lupin has the map open, would he not see 2 versions of Hermione and Harry?
This is so funny because we just talked about this in our live stream and someone asked this very question. So TPSU 129 is commenting in response to Chapter 21, Hermione's Secret of Prisoner of Azkaban.
This is when Lupin sees them near the Whomping Willow.
He sees Peter Pettigrew on the map.
Yeah.
And that's what sends him off.
Yes, and then he runs down to capture them. But obviously we know from later chapters that Harry and Hermione are hiding at the edge of the woods watching this happen.
Yeah.
As they've gone back in time with the time turner.
Right.
So wouldn't they see two of them is the question?
I think when we had the live stream question, I think we just kind of left it at, well, Lupin wouldn't have seen them anyway, just because he saw Pettigrew and just ran off.
Yeah. So in the live stream, everyone that was there, we kind of agreed on a final answer, which was that, yeah, he saw Peter Pettigrew. He didn't look enough at the map. He just saw Peter and was like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah. But we did agree that it is potentially possible that he would have seen two Harry and Hermione's.
Yeah.
And
maybe he just thought he sucks at map making, and that
if he had seen two Harry and Hermione's, he might have thought the map was broken.
Yeah.
In combination with Peter Pettigrew, he would have been like, "Oh, the magic's worn off. It sucks now. It's broken."
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't. He just saw Pettigrew and took off.
And yeah, whether or not he saw it, I think Pettigrew was top priority, and it wasn't really worth carrying. You know, like I'll check that out later. It must be an issue with the map. I don't know.
Right.
So that's kind of what we came up with.
That was
our answer.
That was our answer.
He just didn't notice.
So I'm going to go ahead and continue on the Lupin train here with this comment from English for Growth in regards to Chapter 3, The Advance Guard from Order of the Phoenix. English for Growth says, your characters are so vivid, great voiceover. Thank you very much. Your Lupin is more humane than what they did in some versions where he sounds like a depressed and hysterical Frenchman.
Oh, that's actually great, though.
I love that comment. I just absolutely loved that. It was fantastic. Not just because thank you, I'm really glad you enjoy my Lupin.
Yes.
And I make him human, so that's fantastic. But I am picturing Lupin as a depressed, hysterical Frenchman, and it is kind of funny. So, that just
sees Peter Pettigrew on the map. Sacre bleu! I must stop this mad rat. Why? Why though? Why do a voice like that for Lupin? Nothing. I mean, I get the depressed part because
he's kind of depressed.
Yeah, he is. But I think J.K. depicts him in a way that, yes, he's depressed, but he keeps an optimistic outlook on things.
I think.
And he tries to stay upbeat for the most part.
He definitely struggles with the whole depression thing, and it is more clear in 5 than in 3, but you still get the vibe of, because he's always like, here, have some chocolate, it'll help. He's lost everyone he's ever loved in the war. You know that he's got this lycanthropy that he's got to deal with. So you know that he struggles, and I think it comes through in the writing. But he also doesn't let the depression take him over. He's always trying to fight the fight against the depression.
I mean, I might be a little biased on this, but I like your version more than someone to do a very depressed Lupin, because I don't think that's really how depression manifests itself in the real world,
Right.
Like, some of the happiest people can still be depressed. Like, look at Robin Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
just because a person is depressed doesn't mean that it translates and that they're depressed.
I think doing the voice more normal, I guess, just an average voice, what you would think Lupin would sound like, I think provides more later on when you find out that he is so depressed and he has all these issues.
Well, And I think Lupin's a complex character. He's not just this depressed guy. He's this incredibly intelligent, gifted wizard who maybe struggles with depression, but also struggles with this stigmatizing illness, but continues to push against and fight the good fight anyway.
Yeah.
And is a very good father figure for Harry, and takes on that role of father figure for Harry. He's much more than just this depressed werewolf.
It makes him a much stronger character when he is so upbeat and strong for Harry when he's dealing with all that stuff.
Right. I think the first time you really see it crack, you see, I don't want to say you'll see a little bit of it in Order of the Phoenix, but you definitely see it.
You get little hints in there, but
by the time you get to Deathly Hallows and he's like talking about leaving Tonks and he can't have a kid, what if it's like him, and all of that like comes out, and it's Harry realizing, and then Harry yells at him and stuff, and you kind of see those inner insecurities really come out.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just read him how I felt him. So
yeah, I was gonna say, like I said, I might be biased, but I like Lupin being read as,
a complex
a
character.
real person and not his mental illness.
Yeah. Or perceived mental illness or whatever. But depressed and hysterical Frenchman. Oh, that was funny.
Although I do want to hear the depressed and hysterical Frenchman Lupin now. That's just great. This next one's by John. I'm not religious, but I noticed J.K. Rowling put a lot of Christian undertones in the series, and I found one in this chapter. Chapter 28, The Missing Mirror, from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Aberforth gave Harry bread and wine. Harry, who would go on to sacrifice himself for everyone, literally just had his Last Supper, the same thing Jesus had before he sacrificed himself. I also know that Peter denied Jesus 3 times, and if I'm not mistaken, Draco denied Harry 3 times in Malfoy Manor. Just some interesting correlations I've found.
Very cool. Very cool. Love that.
I did not notice that, but yeah, I can't thwart that. That's accurate.
And there are a lot of Christian undertones in Rowling's.
About that.
There's a lot of Christian undertones in Rowling's writing because Rowling takes a lot from classic literature, and there is a lot of Christian undertone in a lot of Christian literature. You can write a very secular novel, but they're still going to have these themes of the Messiah, the sacrifice, the prophet, or other biblical events like the flood and the casting out of the Garden of Eden, the snake symbolism, all kinds of things that are in all books. But I think the Christian symbolism is the most prominent in the Deathly Hallows.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's where you started saying like Harry is Jesus.
Harry's Jesus, and then you also have the quotes on the gravestone that are direct biblical quotes.
Yep. I think mythology and religion was like evenly proportioned because there was definitely a lot of Greek mythology, some Norse mythology in there, Christianity, but I think Deathly Hallows just really increased in like the Christian religious mythology. And it's the most
it's the most apparent here because this is the book where Harry sacrifices himself.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the most, I don't want to say obvious, but it is going to be the biggest influence.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of what makes Harry Potter so good is she's drawing on the Greeks, the Norse, the Romans, Christianity, and all of that. You can
take the best of all worlds and just put it into one.
Yeah. But thank you very much for that, John. That was very cool.
Very cool that you found insightful.
Very cool that you found that. That was awesome.
I did get the Last Supper thing, but I definitely didn't pick up on the Draco denying Harry 3 times in Malfoy Manor.
I know. I don't think I thought about it. Malfoy Manor is so devastating. Their whole event.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
It kind of misdirects you from that sort of stuff.
But it's very cool. It's very subtle, but it's there. It's very cool. This comment just made me very happy, so I'm just gonna go with it. Michaela Smith said, "Thank you for these readings. As a dyslexic mama, you've provided a way for me to share my favorite books with my boys without anxiety of reading aloud. We listen every night, and it's brought magic to my house."
Man, you're gonna make the grown man cry.
Are making a grown lady cry. That just was very moving.
Yeah, these are my favorite type of comments, because this is just something we're just kind of doing for fun, and the fact that it can really help people get through hard times or even bring magic to your house is just
incredible.
There's no word to describe it. It's just awesome.
Yeah. So whenever I read comments like this, they really get me, and I love them, and they're everything.
Exactly.
So thank you for sharing that, Michaela. It means quite a lot.
I cannot describe how happy we are that we could help you bring magic to your home. This next one is by Bunny A. This chapter is my favorite chapter of the whole book. It is genuinely entertaining. I can just imagine the scene of Professor Slughorn chilling in the vegetable patch and Harry whipping out of nowhere, and it's said with flourish, so I know he was dramatic about it. It just made me giggle so hard at work. This book is so funny. Other times I've laughed are when Luna claimed the Aurors were fighting with dark magic and gum disease. I haven't genuinely found anything funny in so long. It's so nice. Professor Slughorn feeling guilty makes me sad. To mirror Sirius's guilt of feeling like his choices aided Voldemort in his wrongdoings and thinking that, in a way, it's his fault Lily and James and countless others died.
This is in response to chapter 22, After the Burial, the Half-Blood Prince.
I mean, this is one of the greatest when Harry's hyped up on Felix Felicis.
One of the best chapters, one of the funniest chapters in the whole series. So, Bunny A, I totally get you. It's the whole sequence of events when Harry drinks it, and then he's just like, I'm going to Hagrid's. What? No! I've got a really good feeling about going to Hagrid's right now. The whole sequence is just hilarious.
I picture Harry strutting through Hogwarts the way I would picture Lockhart strutting through Hogwarts in flourish.
Just having a great time. Felix Felicis up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, Slughorn.
This book, I think Rowling really just nails such dark content so well, but also incorporating such really, really great levels and moments of humor. Yeah. This is one of the funniest books in the series.
Yeah.
While also being one of the darkest at the same time.
You gotta have that balance. You gotta have some comedic relief. I mean, if you're just dark the whole time, by the end of the book, you're just gonna be, as depressed as a Frenchman Lupin.
Yes. Kind of like that last chapter of All the Young Dudes we read, where we were just left feeling like, oh, jeez. Yeah, now I'm sad.
Super heavy.
I mean, this is the book where Dumbledore dies. This is the book where we find out all about Voldemort's life and the Horcruxes. But then you also have teenage love and romance and Felix Felicis and just funny things.
Yes.
Going on throughout the whole story. It's Slughorn in and of himself is just one of the best.
I almost feel like Slughorn wasn't even intended in the book at first, and then Rowling just read it and was just like, oh my god. Afterwards, okay, I gotta add something in here. Slughorn, super awesome. Let's go.
And I like the connection she makes with Slughorn to Sirius. How Slughorn is ashamed and sad about his choices, and how they may have influenced events. Slughorn feels guilty and ashamed that he told Tom Riddle about Horcruxes. Sirius feels shamed and guilty that he wasn't the secret keeper, that he pushed them to choose Peter.
It was really a book of regret, because we were just talking in the live stream about
Unforgivable
sins.
Yeah.
And how Dumbledore really trusted Snape because he was there. He's done what Snape did.
Right. There. It is just kind of sad. But I think Slughorn has the advantage of age and the ability to almost do something to redeem what it is that he feels guilty about.
Yeah.
Because he does give Harry the memory in the end. So here we have another comment from Bunny A. They like to write a book, apparently. But we like these long comments. So this is in regard to Chapter 10, The House of Gaunt, from The Half-Blood Prince. One of my favorite chapters in The Half-Blood Prince. Still salty it's not in the movie. Say that forever. So Bunny A says, I like to think that this chapter is a prime example of how much gray there is in the world. No character is pure evil or pure good, except maybe Umbridge. If she had been a child of a love potion, the wizarding world might have definitely had a new dictator in its midst. While Merope causes you to sympathize with her background and upbringing, definitely weird, abusive vibes from her brother to try to keep her self-esteem down and to attack the object of her desires because as we see, Tom Sr. doesn't even look in her direction for the Gaunts to be upset at him. And her mentally and physically abusive father. She did commit a heinous crime of raping Tom Sr. and damaging him to the point of him becoming a recluse. As far as we know and suspect, he didn't marry anyone else, and to be honest, I don't really blame him for not wanting to look for his son. Seeing as how the Gaunts didn't go to school, didn't socialize, it's not that far-fetched to imagine poor Merope would be set up with either her brother or just be a housemaid until her father died. All in all, a tragedy for all involved.
Yeah, I don't think there was any happy ending for any of the Gaunts.
And there never would have been.
No.
I think it is fine for you to sympathize with someone who has been through such incredible trauma while also not excusing the crime that they committed based off of their trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, Merope did commit acts against Tom Sr.'s will. She, in effect, did rape him for months on end.
Yeah.
She kept him trapped with magic. Those are horrible, awful things. But she grew up in an environment where she never understood what healthy, good love is. And yes, there are some severely awful abusive undertones. There are some incest undertones. I think Bunny A is totally right. She would have been forced to marry her brother. Merope was never given any tools on how to be a human being.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't excuse the fact that what she did to Tom Sr. was horrible, and he now is collateral damage in that abusive cycle that the Gaunts have created. Because now he is traumatized by what Merope had done to him, and he doesn't get married. He stays a recluse. And the tragedy of Tom Sr. is not only was all of this stuff done to him, but he can't even talk about it with anybody.
Yeah, like who's gonna believe him?
He can't even...
If he can talk to someone. Like,
right.
He gave me a love potion, and I was just like, couldn't stop.
Yeah.
Couldn't do anything.
I had no control over my own... I had no control over myself. I was being controlled for months on end by someone else. He couldn't even talk about it.
Yeah.
And so when people say, well, he didn't even bother to look for his son, I 100% can't blame him. He didn't consent to having a child. It's a product of an extremely traumatizing event,
I feel like you just get PTSD if he ever saw Tom Riddle.
Right. So she's right. This is all very tragic, very sad, horrific, horrific. And this chapter sheds light on the fact that these kinds of horrible, awful things happen in the wizarding world too.
Yeah.
You know,
it isn't all just Hogwarts and rainbows.
yeah, like there is abuse, there's domestic violence, there, love potions sound cute, but actually it's like a date rape drug, or can be used as one. There is incest, there is all of these awful, seedy, gross underbelly things that humans do.
Well, we know about the incest, like that's kind of pointed out a lot.
Well, right.
Once we start learning about like the Black family tree and.
But here we see it on a really awful, insidious level where these people are poor, penniless, isolated, abusive.
Yeah, it's like Hills Have Eyes type.
Almost. There's kind of that kind of edge to it that's, because the Blacks were marrying cousins and cousins.
Yeah. But they were...
which is still horrible. I mean, Sirius was abused too, but this is a level of abuse that's just like this is on a whole other level of just literally beating a person down so much.
Yeah. And Merope does it, and I don't think it ever clarifies whether she feels that it was wrong or right when she was doing it, but you can almost imagine that she probably didn't see anything wrong with it because there was probably that going on to her. Like they were probably doing that sort of stuff to her.
She doesn't understand the difference, and she just wants to be loved. And in her desire to be loved, the victim becomes the victimizer.
Exactly.
Which is classic how abuse works. But Merope, to her credit, does break that cycle. She does take the potion off of him, and in her naivete, she thinks he will still love her. And obviously he doesn't,
Yet again, we have that theme of unforgivable sins.
I think
she gives Tomrill up because she can't do it. She
does end up feeling guilty and this and that, versus where her brother and her father never felt those kinds of things. I could do a whole video on the House of Gaunt and the characters, and I would love to do that because I just love this chapter.
The House of Gaunt is a very interesting house.
It's just one of the most brutal, dark chapters in the series. So I don't know. Great comment, though.
And like you said, Half-Blood Prince. There you go. That's why you need Slughorn in this book.
That chapter right there. That's why you need to sprinkle a little crystallized pineapple in the story.
Sweeten the deal.
Yeah. So anyway, Bunny, thank you for the comment. Loved it. Obviously, I just talked for forever about it. So, fantastic.
Next comment comes from Dolores Ed. Super Carlin brothers have a theory that the assault of Fabian and Gideon Pruitt was set up by Voldemort in order to obtain the sword of Gryffindor, which he then took to the Potter's house, intending to turn it into his final Horcrux by killing Harry, which explains the delay between when Wormtail became Secret Keeper and the attack. After all, the predictions had to be made sometime prior to July 31st, and then the Potters would have gone into hiding, but Voldemort never attacked until Halloween. I think it would be cool to see some reaction videos from you guys about some of the Harry Potter theories out there.
I think this is like the third or fourth time Dolores Ed has brought up the Super Carlin brothers.
Oh, yeah?
They got Harry Potter theories out the wazoo. They're always talking about Harry Potter theories. They're the ones that did but they do like some of the crazy ones, like Godric Gryffindor is really the giant squid.
That's where I heard it before.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I know we talked about this in the last video, and I was like...
Yeah, the giant squid thing. Yep.
I would be totally down to look into some of the theories. I feel like I'm more of a Game of Thrones theorist myself, but I would love to dive into some of the Harry Potter theories. But I feel like there are some holes there that we could fill in with the theories.
See, I'm one of those Harry Potter people who goes, no, there's no holes. There's an explanation for everything.
Well, not holes, but things that aren't explained, like this scenario with the Sword of Gryffindor.
I'm trying to remember when the prophecy, when Trelawney gives the prophecy. Because she says a boy born at the end of July or whatever, but that doesn't because Harry is a year old when his parents are killed.
Yeah.
So the prophecy could have happened at any time. Because the wizarding community is so small that, and the Potters and the Longbottoms, like they're pretty prominent families. So I would think that,
a lot of people would know about the birth.
Two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Either way, it's interesting.
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't say anything on until we watch the video, because I'll probably say something and it's like, well, duh, this is
right. We should just check it out. But that is a great suggestion, though, that we do some reaction to some of the Harry Potter theories out there.
Oh, 100%. I mean, my reaction to the giant squid is, yes, let it be. I like that.
There's another theory that
Godric Gryffindor has just hung out at Hogwarts for so long eating toast.
There's another theory out there that Dumbledore is actually death. We won't get into that right now. I'm just saying there's a lot of really interesting stuff out there.
Okay, I'm just going to say one thing on that.
You gotta. Okay.
Yeah. I think it does kind of make sense because he's just chilling there when Harry dies.
He also gives Harry all the Hallows.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
He literally gives Harry all the Hallows.
Yes.
He gives him the cloak. He gives him the ring.
And when Harry dies, he welcomes him as an old friend.
Yep. Those are just Hallows references.
Yeah.
Not to mention everything else in the books.
That's another theory I think we should look into, but so far it seems plausible and I like it.
It's a good one. It's a fun one. We will definitely take that consideration. We will definitely take that idea into consideration about Harry Potter theories.
Yes.
And we'll look into that. So I am probably going to say this name wrong, and please forgive me for mispronouncing it. Skuz Nofezula?
I was going to say Scouse.
Nofezula?
Nofezula.
Either way, that was our attempt to pronounce that. And if it was terrible, I really apologize. This comment is in response to chapter 21, The Unknowable Room, from the Half-Blood Prince. So it's a question, but I'm going to also put it to you in a different way. So the comment was, what was your favorite book to read, I wonder? And so then I will then ask you, which was your favorite one to listen to?
I always say 3's my favorite, and I think it's because I just had so much fun trying to find out who Sirius Black was. Looking back, I'm like, God, I should have known earlier, but it was fun to theorize and everything in that. So that one's up there. Either 3 or probably 7. Because 3, I think, was the funnest to kind of theorize and try to predict what was going to happen and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then 7 was you get to see how many of your predictions in the end were right.
All of the all the long game predictions that you had?
Yeah. Not to mention, it was, I think, probably the deepest book.
Yeah.
Out of all of them.
Yeah. As far as reading them goes, it's really hard because I think there are characters that are in certain books that I really enjoyed reading, but they're not in other books.
I will predict that your favorite was Half-Blood Prince because you got to do Slughorn.
I was gonna
boy.
Hey, my boy. I think it's gotta be between 6 and 7.
Yeah.
It's really hard to choose because 6 was so fun to read. Because Slughorn, because Voldemort, Tom Riddle Voldemort, interchangeable, half Voldemort, half Tom.
Yeah.
But then 7 was so much fun to read because everyone's there. Everyone's there. Plus Auntie Muriel.
Not to mention, you get to do a lot of Voldemort.
Get to do a lot of Voldemort. You can get, yeah, a lot of the first chapter. Reading the first chapter of 7 was very magical. I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot of fun. And then getting to do Auntie Muriel, one of my favorites to do ever. Getting to do Umbridge again. She comes back. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it's got to be 7 was the best one to read, but also the hardest one to read. Because crying.
Yeah.
Because crying was hard. I don't know how many times I had to read the Dobby death before it, like, came out okay.
Yeah.
From the crying.
Yeah, that was like, yeah, I remember we had to keep going back and doing it again.
Yep.
You're just like, you're breaking up. I mean, I was breaking up too. But yeah, I think that's the only fault I'll give book 7. Dobby died. I'll never forgive you, JK. It was necessary, but that doesn't mean I forgive you.
Yeah, I think that's why 7 was probably my favorite. It's my favorite book. All the characters are there, so I got to read everybody. 6 is really close. Yeah, 4 was fun though because I got to do different accents. I got to try on a ridiculous French.
Oh yeah,
so
Beaubaton.
Beaubaton. Oh, I don't like this Hogwarts food. It is too heavy.
Say it a little bit sadder, and you have
Depressed Lupus. So yeah, wow, a lot of good comments.
A ton of good.
Keep
comments.
them coming, please.
This was only a small portion of the comments we got, but we can't make this video 3 hours long. So.
No, we can't video respond to every comment, but I'm really having a lot of fun doing these. This is a lot of fun.
So please keep those comments coming. Be sure to like this video if you like us answering all those comments, and if you haven't already, subscribe to catch any of the future comment videos that we bring up.
Yes, we look forward to seeing what else you guys have to say.